Student loan debt. For decades, it was presented as a necessary hurdle, a rite of passage for anyone seeking higher education and a better future. The promise was simple: invest in your education, and the returns will far outweigh the initial cost. But for an entire generation, that promise feels increasingly hollow. Gen Z is now entering adulthood, diplomas in hand, but shackled to a level of debt that previous generations could scarcely imagine. This isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's a pervasive weight that is fundamentally reshaping the timeline of their lives, forcing them to postpone, and in some cases, abandon the very milestones that define the American dream. The landscape has shifted. The rules have changed. And we need to ask, is the system that was meant to create opportunity now the single greatest obstacle to achieving it? Let's look at the numbers, because they paint a stark and unsettling picture. The total student loan debt in the United States has surpassed $1.7 trillion. That's trillion with a T. It's more than the nation's total credit card debt and auto loan debt combined. For Generation Z, those born between 1997 and 2012, this isn't just an abstract statistic. A significant portion of them are graduating with tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt before they even earn their first real paycheck. The average student loan payment hovers around $400 a month. For a recent graduate entering an uncertain job market, that's not just a minor expense. It's a second rent payment. It's the difference between saving and living paycheck to paycheck. It's a constant, draining presence that dictates every financial decision they make. How can someone save for a down payment on a house when a substantial chunk of their income is already claimed before it even hits their bank account? This is the reality for millions. The dream of homeownership has always been a cornerstone of financial stability and wealth creation in America. It's a tangible asset, a place to build a life and a family. But for Gen Z, that dream is becoming more and more distant. The traditional path was to graduate, get a job, save for a few years, and then buy a starter home. Student debt has thrown a wrench into that entire process. Lenders look closely at debt-to-income ratios when considering mortgage applications. High student loan payments can disqualify a potential buyer, even if they have a good job and a decent credit score. The debt itself makes it nearly impossible to save the necessary 20% down payment that is often required to avoid costly private mortgage insurance. So, they're trapped. They're forced to rent for longer, pouring money into an asset that will never be their own, delaying their entry into the real estate market while home prices continue to climb. They're running a race, but their starting line is miles behind everyone else's. It doesn't stop with home ownership. The ripple effect of this debt crisis extends into the most personal aspects of life. Consider the decision to start a family. Having children is an expensive endeavor, from healthcare and childcare to education. When a significant portion of your income is already allocated to debt repayment, the financial burden of raising a child can seem insurmountable. We're seeing a clear trend. Young adults are delaying marriage and parenthood, not because they don't want these things, but because they feel they can't afford them. This isn't just a personal choice. It has broad demographic implications for the future. A generation that feels financially insecure is less likely to make long-term commitments, whether it's buying a house or starting a family. The student loan system, intended to foster individual growth, may be inadvertently stunting societal growth as well. Then there's the concept of saving for the future for retirement. It sounds almost absurd to talk about retirement with someone in their early 20s, but the power of compound interest means that the earlier you start saving, the better. Financial advisors have always preached this gospel. Yet, for Gen Z, it's a sermon they can't afford to heed. When you're struggling to cover rent, utilities, and a massive student loan bill, what's left for a 401k or an IRA? The answer, for many, is nothing. They're being forced to prioritize the debts of their past over the security of their future. This creates a dangerous cycle. By delaying retirement savings, they miss out on the most crucial years of growth, meaning they will have to save far more aggressively later in life to catch up or difficult task when they are also trying to manage mortgages and the costs of raising children, milestones they've already had to postpone. The financial hole just gets deeper. This isn't a story about irresponsible spending or a lack of financial literacy. It's a story about a systemic failure. The cost of higher education has exploded over the past few decades, far outpacing inflation and wage growth. State funding for public universities has dwindled, shifting the cost burden onto students and their families. At the same time, wages for recent graduates have largely stagnated. We've created a perfect storm: skyrocketing tuition, easy access to loans to cover that tuition, and a job market that often doesn't provide the income necessary to pay it all back. Gen Z didn't create this problem. They inherited it. They played by the rules they were given, only to find the game was rigged from the start. They were told that a college degree was the non-negotiable ticket to the middle class, but for many, it's become a trap, locking them out of the very stability it was supposed to provide. So, where do we go from here? Ignoring the problem is no longer an option. The long-term consequences are too severe, not just for Gen Z, but for the entire economy. A generation burdened by debt is a generation with less purchasing power. They buy fewer cars, fewer homes, and start fewer businesses. This suppressed economic activity affects everyone. There are ongoing debates about solutions, from widespread loan forgiveness to reforming the interest rate structure, to making public college tuition free. None of these are simple fixes, and each comes with its own set of economic and political challenges. But the conversation itself is critical. We must move beyond the tired narrative that this is solely an individual's problem to solve. It is a collective crisis that requires a collective solution. The psychological toll of this debt is also immense and often overlooked. Living under the constant stress of a debt you feel you may never escape can lead to anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of hopelessness. It colors every decision, every opportunity, every dream for the future. It's a mental burden as much as it is a financial one. When an entire generation feels like they're starting their adult lives in a state of deficit, it erodes their optimism and their belief in the system. They are being asked to build a future on a foundation of sand. The American dream is predicated on the idea of upward mobility, that each generation will have the opportunity to be better off than the last. For Gen Z, student loan debt is a direct threat to that fundamental promise. We have to question the value proposition we are offering our young people. Is an education system that requires crippling debt truly serving its purpose? Is it fostering innovation, creativity, and progress? Or is it creating a generation of risk-averse, financially constrained individuals who are too burdened by the past to invest in the future? The story of Gen Z and their student loans is not just a financial headline, it's a cautionary tale. It's a reflection of our societal priorities and a test of our commitment to the next generation. We are at a crossroads. We can continue down this path, watching as the cornerstones of adulthood crumble for millions, or we can recognize this crisis for what it is and take bold, decisive action to fix a broken system. The future of an entire generation, and perhaps the future of our economic stability, depends on the choice we make. Thanks for watching. If this conversation resonated with you, consider subscribing for more in-depth analysis.